Thank you so much for joining us here for an hour to give. I'm Sam Laprade, and this week we're featuring many different organizations, all because the Ottawa Community Foundation reached out to us. They want to share these great stories. And when I think about the Ottawa Community Foundation, three words come to mind: creativity, collaboration, and community. And Taze McNeil knows all about that. Hi, Taze, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Sam. Thanks so much for having me.
So happy that you're here today. What's your role at the Ottawa Community Foundation?
Yeah, so I'm the senior associate on our grants team. So I manage our community grants programs and our strategic granting programs.
That's fantastic. And you're all over the place, and you get to meet wonderful people like Bettina Vollermausen. How are you?
Hello. Thank
Great
you.
to have you here.
Yeah, excited to be here.
From the Ottawa Tool Library. That is just fascinating to me to begin with, and obviously we have many tools amongst us today. So tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yes, we are a library where people can come and borrow tools instead of books. We have an array of tools, over 2,500 tools. They range from hand tools, power tools, kitchen tools, and garden tools. Members can come and borrow these tools and take them home for any of their DIY projects.
How smart is that? Yeah. Right? It just makes sense. And this is, I love about the Ottawa Community Foundation is the fact that you bring so many of these organizations together. You really are a hub. For those that aren't familiar with your organization, Taze, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks for those very kind words. So the Community Foundation is a public charitable foundation. We grant to organizations all across Ottawa and beyond. And it's all individuals and family funds who give through the Community Foundation. It's not government funding, it's individuals. And we effectively act as a private foundation for individuals and families across the city.
That's wonderful. And as I mentioned off the top, we're able to feature a number of different organizations today, which you've brought together to share today. So some of these smaller organizations that wouldn't get that kind of love are getting it today because of the work that you're doing. Talk to me a little bit about the recovery grant, because that's a really big part of what we've just all come out of.
Absolutely. So the Community Services Recovery Fund is a nationwide $400 million investment from the federal government, delivered through three national partners: Community Foundations of Canada, which is the national network of community foundations, United Way Centraide Canada, and the Canadian Red Cross. And so organizations from coast to coast to coast were able to apply through a local partner, through a local community foundation or United Way or Red Cross office, for support coming out of, or at least evolving through, the pandemic, which we know put such a massive strain on organizations like Bettina's and like the other ones you'll hear from today.
For sure. And Bettina, I think about this organization once again, think it's absolutely brilliant, because somebody may not need to buy a tool. We have an array of them today. To buy this, they're going to use it maybe once or twice. So it does a couple of different things. Obviously help the economy, helps keep a little bit of those dollars in someone's pocket, but it creates community as well, Bettina.
Yes, absolutely. As I was mentioning before, we have a lending inventory, and I brought a little bit of a sample of that. But we also have a workspace, and in that workspace, which is a fully stocked wood shop, people can come and work on their DIY projects if they live in a high-rise and they want to build a headboard or something. You can't bring that table saw home to work on that. So you can come to us, use that space, do all the dust and all the work there, leave it there, and take your project home with you. We also use that space to actually teach workshops. And so that's really important to us as an organization. We're not only about access to the resources, in our case it's tools, because there are other lending libraries around. It's also access to knowledge and skills, so people can come and learn how to use it. Like, what is this? What do you use this for? Why would I want to use this? And how do I use this, right? And so it's really empowering to see actually participants from our workshops leave. I always feel that they walk out a little bit taller, a little bit straighter, because, you know, they built this. They're super excited. They've learned how to use these tools. It builds confidence, self-reliance, and as you mentioned, it's definitely better for the pocketbook. And also for our environment, right? We don't all need to own these tools, but we need a place where we can share these tools.
Brilliant. And I would think it would be quite empowering. You know, especially I'm thinking about, I'm a single mom, and, you know, if I was to do something and need something like this around the house and be able to do that myself, not only am I saying to my daughter, hey, listen, you know, mom's never done this before, but look at me now, but also empowering for community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually glad you mentioned your daughter, because that was one of the issues that we've encountered, where people were saying, kids don't learn anymore how to use tools. And what are these tools? And how do I drill a hole? And oh my God, a drill goes backwards too. Why? Those things. So we actually also teach kids, and that is what we call the Tinkering School program, where kids can come and learn how to use these tools and also really pass it on to the next generation, right? Because that's what's important. It's that long-term thinking.
And after the show, I'll get you to tell me why a drill goes backwards.
Yeah, I will.
Which would be fantastic. So I mean, this is just one example of so many different organizations that you work with. But even when you hear Bettina talking about her work, I mean, talk to me a little bit about what that means to be the connector of all these people.
I mean, we're so honored and privileged to be able to work with folks like Bettina and the organizations you'll hear from. I think it's funny, we often say Ottawa is not that big of a town, right? It's a small town feel, even in a large city. And I think at the Community Foundation, what we really try to do is keep that small town feel and create those connections. Folks should know about the tool library, right? I mean, what an amazing resource that Bettina's built here with her team. So anything we can do to elevate that, provide a little bit of support to help, again, particularly given how challenging the past few years have been for everyone, but in particular for the community services sector, what we're trying to do is just help organizations come out of that a little bit stronger, a little bit more resilient, and with those stronger partnerships and that stronger sense of community.
So I have to ask, this is the fundraiser in me, what do you need?
Oh, money.
That was quick.
Not only money, but I mean, it's really, and that's what actually allows us to do. We were able to actually hire a consultant. We're working on a 2-year fundraising strategy. It allowed us to sort of analyze some of our data. Where's our money coming from? What are the revenue streams? Should we look at maybe some others? How to build partnerships? We're looking for corporate partners. And then what other grants are out there, those kind of things. And really, it's vital to organizations like ours to get a capacity building grant that actually allows you to do that kind of hard work. That often, to be honest, like just running a tool library is so busy, keeping it all going, as I was mentioning, there's workshops and there's tinkering schools and we run repair cafes. There's so much going on that to have some money, to have the resources to get that knowledge and build our capacity is going to be incredible because we are entering our 10-year anniversary year, 2024, and so we really want to be around for the next 50 years, how about that? And there should be more tool libraries, really. I mean, we're in one location. There should be many, many more across the country and also across our city, actually.
Yeah, brilliant. Those milestones are so important. Yeah. And when I think about a lot of organizations, I mean, I'm thinking about Bettina's right now, but a lot of organizations just need that hand up. They don't need you to hold your hand the whole way, but just how can you get us to the next level? And I think some of the examples that were given, like how can we create partnerships and how can we apply for more grants, leverage the monies that maybe they would have received from you. Brilliant.
Absolutely. And Bettina mentioned capacity building. And I think a lot of folks think about the delivery of services or programs that organizations offer, the programs or the food handouts. But what's not often thought about is the infrastructure that underpins all of that. And that can be harder to fundraise for. It can be harder to get donors excited about. But that's absolutely critical. It's not necessarily well known. There's a massive HR crisis in the community services sector right now. Staff work incredibly hard, typically for lower than average pay in challenging conditions. And the pandemic only made that more and more difficult. So HR, partnerships, support for staff and volunteers, those sorts of infrastructure pieces are absolutely critical to the well-being of our entire city. And they're not an easy story to tell.
No, absolutely. Just so you know, your passion for the Ottawa Tool Library is infectious. Yes, you can tell how much it means to you. Where did it all start?
Over a beer. Should I tell the story?
That's okay. You can tell us that.
Yeah, I went for a beer with a friend, and he actually was lamenting the fact that he was buying a tile cutter to do his backsplash in the kitchen, knowing full well he'd never use that tool again. And he's like, there should be a tool library in Ottawa. And I'm like, I know, I heard about these things. They're amazing. And then, a little while later, I was by chance in Toronto, and Toronto has a tool library, and I went to see it. And I remember being on the train ride back, calling my friend Frédéric and going, Frédéric, we've got to do this. Like, it's amazing. We need to have this in Ottawa. Let's get together, have another beer, and see how this works out. And now, I mean, we're a huge team. I have to say, obviously, I'm not the only one. There's a huge team of volunteers behind me. We're volunteer-powered, majority. We're open 5 days a week, and that's all thanks to our volunteer team. I have amazing people, really talented, lots of skills. And I look forward to many, many more years with it, yeah.
Where do all the tools come from?
So 99% of the tools actually have been donated to us. And that's really, unfortunately, in a way, it's that generation that now downsizes, right? They're going into homes, they're passing on, and the people who are inheriting the tools are often going, I don't even know how to use them.
Right.
Would you please, I want to see them used. I don't want to see them go to the landfill. And so we actually have a tool hospital at the tool library. Anyone listening should come out and visit us. We give tours all the time. We have tool doctors in there, and the tool doctors triage all our donations. So they will come and look at the tools. Is it safe to use? Oh, it needs a blade change or whatever. And then it either goes on our shelves, or, for example, we have already 20 drills. Do we need another drill? Maybe not. So then we actually put it in our garage sale or in our web store. So that is actually another thing that came out of the pandemic for us. We run garage sales twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. And we had boxes and boxes of used tools inspected by the tool doctors. We didn't need them. We either passed them on to other organizations, but the garage sales weren't happening during the pandemic, right? We had hundreds of tools, and we're like, what are we going to do? And so we started a web store. So actually, you can go to our website now and click on web store. There's always used tools available, and it has become another revenue stream for us. So it's one of those amazing silver linings out of the pandemic, because lots of other challenges happened.
Yes, of course, of course. Brilliant, brilliant to do that. What's a, we only have about a minute, but what's a myth you can bust for us about the Ottawa Community Foundation that people may not know about the work you do?
I think a myth might just be that you have no reason to work with us, right? I mean, we work with donors and community organizations and partners of all kinds, of all sizes, of all focus areas. We fund every single issue across the spectrum. If you're the slightest bit interested in community in Ottawa, it's right there in the middle of our name. Check us out, the Ottawa Community Foundation. You can see my photo and email address online. You can send me a note directly. Chances are there's a way we can work with you.
We have about 30 seconds. Bettina, what would you say to Taze and the team at the Ottawa Community Foundation for the work you've done?
I like that you stress the word community. I really feel well taken care of. I've met other organizational leaders through this grant where we had lovely get-togethers, and sharing of information is very important and vital in our environment. And I think that's what the Ottawa Community Foundation provides, and it's been super helpful for us.
Wonderful. Beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it very much. Taze McNeil joining us from the Ottawa Community Foundation, and Bettina Volmernhausen joining us as well. We appreciate them spending time with us here on An Hour to Give. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. Stay right with us on An Hour to Give. Thank you so much for joining us here on An Hour to Give. What's better than one executive director? Well, of course, it's two executive directors. And today we're joined by Nicole Milne. How are you, Nicole?
Well, thanks for having us.
And tell us a little bit about your organization.
I am the executive director of the Ottawa Arts Council. We're an arts service organization that advocates for artists in our community of all disciplines. We offer professional development opportunities and networking opportunities throughout the community.
That's fantastic. And you brought Cassandra Ulstrom with you as well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Foundation. We're talking today as well about the Ottawa Community Foundation. How are you connected as executive director of the Ottawa Arts Council?
Well, I'm with the Arts Network Ottawa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But thank you. That's actually a great introduction to our project.
Yeah. Yes.
Because Nicole really summed up what Ottawa Arts Council does and actually what Arts Network Ottawa does as well.
Excellent.
We have been working in the same area, doing the same work, working collaboratively for a number of years, working collectively with the Community Foundation on similar projects. Yeah. So it's a happens often in the community about who does what and who is who, and we get mistaken for one another surprisingly often enough.
There you go, and it happens today. And so, Cassandra, tell me what the difference is. Then let's start there.
Oh, well, what the difference is? Well, our offices are headquartered at the Shankman Arts Center. Ottawa Arts Council is at the Arts Court. We have a full-time staff of 4. Ottawa Arts Council has 3. And that's it. I mean, we have some programming differences. We've been working for a number of years in providing community-engaged arts opportunities and building a network of community-engaged artists. The Ottawa Arts Council has been doing awards programs. We both run grant programs. We both do mentorship. We both provide internship opportunities for youth trying to get into the sector. But that's kind of where these similarities are. There's a lot more similarities than there are differences between our organizations.
Which is great. And the Ottawa Community Foundation bringing all of you together today is just very symbolic of what they do on a regular basis. But today here on An Hour to Give, bringing all of you together. What would you want someone to know about the Ottawa Arts Council?
Well, I'd want them to know that an organization that is now over 40 years old is ready for change. I think we've been operating sort of in sort of respective silos, doing much of the same, as Cassandra said, in the community. And we'd like them to know that we're viewing what art service looks like through a contemporary and equitable lens. And we're starting to try and reshape our deliverables to the community and to the artists in a way that really responds to the kinds of needs that are current today. And that's what actually helped shape our discussion with Cassandra and I as both executive directors of these organizations that were doing similar work. We were operating very much in silos for many years. And as to our earlier point, a lot of people didn't know what we did and how we were different. And throughout the pandemic, we realized that it didn't matter as much who was doing the work, but that the work was being done authentically and meaningfully. So we started thinking about the possibility, which had been suggested in previous assessments over the years, that there's an incredible amount of value in bringing the synergies together and offering clear deliverable services with an opportunity to look at our organizations through a different lens and start to think, what is it in 2024-25? What do artists need? What do arts organizations need? What kind of services have changed from how we structured our organizations independently before? So OCF and this funding has allowed us to take a breath and get a sense of what our organizations can do meaningfully in the community. And we're starting first with the voice of the community guiding us there.
Well, how smart is that? That's brilliant. I can see why you've partnered together. The pandemic was so difficult on so many different audiences and stakeholders. I remember having a number of conversations with artists during that time because it really was very difficult. People that are so creative, feeling like they didn't have that outlet. How have you managed through the pandemic?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, as organizations, we managed pretty well. We're on stable operating funding through the City of Ottawa and the Ontario Arts Council. We had opportunities to access lots of emergency funding, other grants through the foundation, through the Government of Canada. But who didn't fare well, like I said, are artists. And I think it's that discomfort that we're feeling as arts administrators, as sector developers, as arts champions, that through such a moment of crisis that we could, and our staffs could feel not well, but that we could, maintain our employment, and that so many artists were no longer had incomes, no longer had ways to connect, in person with audiences, or be able to sell their work or develop new works creatively. So it's that is a big driver as well for change. That we've been doing some really good work, as Nicole said, for nearly 40 years separately, but wages for artists have not considerably increased in that time. Audiences are coming back and they're developing, but there's not, more opportunities always for our local residents to engage actively in arts in their communities. We want all residents to feel that they can live creative lives, that they can participate in co-creation with artists. So it's really that also that's driving us out of the pandemic, is how can we look at some of the systems and change them so that artists can really live and flourish here.
And when we think about all the conversations that we've had around the pandemic, obviously around health, but around mental health and creativity, and many of us turn to arts, ironically, right? That was the irony of it, is that many of the organizations and many of the people that didn't have those outlets, that's where we were wanting to spend our time. So what were some of the lessons that have come out of the pandemic that maybe we can still learn as we support artists now in this community?
Well, I mean, at this time of year especially, organizations, artists, art service organizations need financial support through donations or end-of-year giving. I mean, that's really paramount. One thing that we learned in the process is the value of partnership and collaboration. I mean, just sitting in your green room and meeting the wonderful guests that are on here tonight, we made discoveries on how we can continue to blend the work of mental health and well-being in the workplace, or with with the precariously housed, how art can actually infuse that. It's interesting that you mentioned that everyone turned to art. It was actually one of the beacons that were the brightest at a time when globally the whole world stopped. Can you imagine managing through a pandemic with all of the doubt and all of the insecurities and the unknowns, and not be able to listen to radio or watch television and see you, and be able to read books, listen to music, be able to move your body to stay well and do some dance, to color, to make art. I mean, how many times did we put kids in front of programs while we were Zooming with our colleagues?
Yes.
Art actually helped support and sustain the well-being of the world. I fundamentally believe that. And ironically and unfortunately, it's one of the least invested areas of our community. But now we're getting better about those partnerships and seeing where there are synergies with wellness and our social issues and the social issues in our community. And we're starting to see those partnerships grow, allowing smaller nonprofits like ours to flourish and expand and get our message out and collaborate together.
Because it really does enrich a community, right? I mean, you think about, whether you're driving and you see an art installation somewhere, or, I always love some of we're in the sort of the Westboro community right now. You drive down the Westboro community and there's all sorts of art installations. I mean, it really does enrich a community. What do you need? I mean, this is a big part of why we're doing this show today. What do you need? If someone's listening right now and watching right now and they're thinking, I want to help, how can they help?
Thank you for that question. We often say that as like a sector development agent, we're in the business of getting out of business. So, we wouldn't need to be here if there wasn't some support needed for our artists. So the best way for people to help is to support their local arts community. It's this time of year, we talk a lot about buying local, and that's a big priority for us as a city to support local businesses, but support local arts organizations as well. So buy tickets to local shows, go out and see some theater, some dance, some performance, purchase art, or donate to a local organization. I think that is the best way to support us, is by supporting their community, or even to take a class. I mean, there's no limit really to how we can engage with local artists and local organizations, and that is the best support for us.
For sure. I love buying art from an artist. I love
a wonderful
it.
Feeling, isn't it?
And the reaction, and you can tell some people are just like, really, you want to buy? They're almost like they're a fantastic artist, but they're so shy to almost sell their art. A lot of the artists that I've worked with it's just so beautiful to see them so excited. What's it been like to work with the Ottawa Community Foundation?
Oh, I couldn't say, it sounds like lip service because we're here on behalf of that funding, but I sincerely couldn't say that it's been outstanding. I mean, this isn't the only project that we work on that they support. They really see the value in what arts and culture bring to communities. And even if our projects adapt throughout the funding cycle, have a quick meeting with Taze and talk to them about how the community or how our organizations or capacity has shifted. We never feel like there is a strong risk. It's just a constant support, I could say. It's they do remarkable work, and we're really, really proud to be connected with them.
That's wonderful. What does 2024 hold?
Oh, lots of.
I love that. That was fantastic.
Lots of this.
Lots of really good things.
We're working really iteratively as part of this merger process, and the goal is really to create something new, to really kind of push what does nonprofit mean. How far can we push the Nonprofit Act? What does governance mean? How are we connecting and responding to community? How are we developing our sector and supporting residents? So we'll be doing a series of learnings and co-creation workshops around that's redeveloping a new model for what this organization will be. And we really welcome the feedback of, yes, artists and local arts communities, but also residents and other sectors, because we're doing this work for a more livable city, for a more prosperous city, for everyone who lives and visits here. So we want to engage not just with artists, but with everyone. So that's it.
That's wonderful. I love that. And we have about 30 seconds. What would you say to an artist that's maybe watching, listening right now, and they're like, I'm a little bit shy to reach out, but I want to reach out?
I would say come, and you have an open invitation to be a part of the conversation. All of the information is on both of our websites. Sign up for our newsletters and learn about our community chats. and become a part of the of this new exciting arts organization. We want the community's voice to lead it.
And I think, you know, with all of the history of these two organizations, I think it's a beautiful way to sort of come into 2024 for sure.
Thanks for saying that. We're really
that's wonderful.
excited.
Well, I am so excited to spend time with you today. Nicole Milne, thank you so much, Executive Director for the Ottawa Arts Council. I promised to get it right. Cassandra Althorn joining us today, Executive Director for Arts Network Ottawa. Thank you so much. I have learned so much today. I'm a big fan of the arts, and you've shared a lot today. Thank you so much. And to the Community Foundation, the Ottawa Community Foundation, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to share time with these wonderful organizations and their leaders. Our time is about halfway through. We've got lots to tell you. Don't go anywhere. It's an hour to give. I'm Sam Laprade. Come on back. And we're back here on An Hour to Give. Thank you so much to the Ottawa Community Foundation for allowing us to meet so many of these amazing organizations in our city. I'm Sam Laprade, and I have the opportunity today to spend time with Carla Tour and Mohammed Sofa. How are you, Carla?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful to spend time with you today.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Tell us what your job is.
So I work with the Coalition of Community Houses. So we're a network of 16 community houses across the city of Ottawa. We're located in social housing neighborhoods and OCH neighborhoods. And my job is I'm the coalition facilitator. So we kind of bring everyone together for collective needs or initiatives to help improve services.
Now, how smart is that? Because I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't even know you exist. And so that's one of the reasons we're here today. Mohammed knows you're here, though. Hi, Mohammed. How are you? You know all about the work Carla's doing.
Of course. We are one of the members of the coalition with the Britannia Woods Community House. Yeah. I play the role of the executive director there. Britannia Woods is one of the 16 houses, and we provide, we're located right in the community that we serve, and we provide supports to our neighbors. From everything from sports and rec to community supports to crisis supports. So we're there for the community, and often we work along with the leadership of the community.
Right on the front line.
Right in the front lines.
Right in the front line. That's tough work. So
it is. You have to be responsive because
Absolutely.
people come and grab morning coffee with you, and sometimes they're there when you're heading home too.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about why this organization was developed. Was it to have some equity and to help ensure that everybody sort of understood best practices, if you will? Is that one of the reasons that your coalition was developed?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say another reason is to kind of, bring everyone together because it's often hard to just do one thing on your own because a lot of the organizations are so busy doing the day-to-day things. So as a coalition, we're able to pick up on the collective needs and deliver on that.
Brilliant, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about the Britannia Woods area and who you'd be serving.
So Britannia Woods is located in between Pinecrest and Bayshore Drive. And we serve, so we have two purposes. One is we serve the immediate neighborhood, which is called Ritchie Street, right off Carling. And then we also serve the surrounding area and sometimes citywide. We have programs for food bank programs that stretch from Bayshore Drive all the way to Broadview, serving anyone who needs food in those communities. Food banks have this catchment area, so you have to stick with the boundaries. So we serve that area. When we provide mental health and wellness programs for Black and racialized communities as well, and particularly more so since the onset of COVID-19, there has been lots of need in the community, and we've sort of adapted culturally appropriate and responsive services to those communities. So everything from helplines to membership with the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition to support through a program called Counseling Connect, which is a portal that coordinates services. So we're community responsive. Often our leadership, 51% of our board are residents of the community. So our direction is often coming from the community. So that needs are identified. We work with our partners like Ottawa Community Foundation to find opportunities and resources to address these needs in the community.
So the word that's coming to my mind when I hear you is the word trust. that you build that trust. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's trust. It's all because a proximity to people that we serve. So people know exactly what we do on an everyday basis. When we give reports, often people are like, oh, I've seen this happen already. So they're part and parcel of everything we do. So we're close-knit community. I grew up in that neighborhood when I was young. I was part of the community as a volunteer, as a staff, and now have the opportunity to lead it as its executive director. Many of the board members have that lived experience. Many of our staff also reflect that. So there's a bit of a culture that comes with it. And I think, to Carla's point, one of the reasons why the coalition was built in 1998 was for our city to understand that there are pockets in our community or populations in our community in Ottawa that are not supported well. One of the ways to do that is coordinating groups that are right in those neighborhoods that have highest needs, and what a great way to all come together and then speak with stakeholders in the city and policymakers and elected officials to say we need for all of us to pay attention to this community, but we also need them to lead the change that they want to see in their community.
And I would think, Carla, as well, there's 15 other Mohammeds, right, in terms of the other houses, and supporting them and encouraging them to keep doing this work and to keep supporting the community. It feels that that's a bit of an advocacy role as well for you.
Yeah, it is for sure, and each need is different and differs across each organization. So part of the job at the coalition is to really be checking in with each of the organizations and kind of seeing what the priorities are and what are the needs are. What is everyone doing well? What is everyone struggling with? And trying to identify those things and either pursue funding opportunities to improve situations. Yeah.
And I think a lot of the work of and I've said this before, but a lot of the work of the Ottawa Community Foundation is really that hand up, right? That opportunity to receive some funding, to maybe it's to do some strategic planning, maybe it's to look at fundraising opportunities, whatever your sort of, to your point, everybody's a little bit different. Absolutely. So that piece, how crucial is that piece? And how important is it that the Ottawa Community Foundation is there as that hub?
Well, so what's great about Ottawa Community Foundation is that they're also local. And they're right in our community, which means they know how we function, they know the needs of the community, and they know how far the dollars invested go. So we're often talking to them ahead of needs for them to think about how they can support us. And honestly, it's been an incredible journey with Ottawa Community Foundation. Well over 20 years of support. This latest grant we got is sort of innovative in our own way, because after COVID, we realized the digitalization of services are needed. We need to not only look at providing services directly to clients, but we also need the back end sort of capacity and infrastructure for employees and volunteers to use. So this fund, the latest fund we received, is building that IT infrastructure for a few of us, and then we will be scaling across the coalition over a period of years. Then we said, we also don't have great HR resources. And we put in an ask, and we now got collective resources to develop our, bring our HR processes and policies into sort of modern, update them, modern day. So these are you invest in it's a small investment, but it's scalable to all the organizations that are in the network.
Absolutely. So what's an average day look like for you, Carla? How are you spending your day?
An average day, I would say, just coming in and seeing what's happened, I guess, over the last day, and of course prioritizing what's going on. But a lot of it is long-term strategic planning and kind of looking at where we can go and what we need to pursue next, and what's going to really benefit all of the organizations, or as many organizations as possible. Like, for example, with this grant, we were able to cover 6 of our 16. But with that said, we're not finished. I think this is the first phase, and we're really hoping to continue this project and bring it across all 16 houses. So our days will always consist of ways of looking at how we do that and what opportunities are there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And if we were to all meet back here in 2033, a decade from now, Mohammed, what do you want to see for Britannia Woods?
Oh, a lot. I think we're in the beginning of lots of change. One of the things that we are we're faced with actually collectively as a coalition is we run food banks, and we run them out of the living room of these townhouses that are being converted to community centers. So one of the things that I would like to see by 2033 is to have a designated food space that's accessible to people, that's dignified, and hopefully community hubs that are anchors in the community that can provide people the support they need right in their community.
Brilliant. And I can only imagine, this is just a hunch I have, is the demand is higher than ever. I mean, I think about the cost of living, inflation, whether it be the gas tank or the grocery store, prices just seem to be out of control. A lot of people looking for that extra help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've looked at food bank numbers, and at the beginning of COVID, it had spiked, and I think everyone thought maybe that we would see it reduce as COVID started to taper off a little bit, but it hasn't. It's actually, I think, what tripled for many of our organizations, and that's just one of the programs that we run. So there's demand for so many other things. We see, some of the fallout of in child and youth programming where they've been isolated from COVID, and kind of trying to scale that back and maintain the connectivity that that we have in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've asked others. I'm going to ask you, what do you need?
Well, what we need is recognition that there are people in need of our community, and as a community in Ottawa, we need to step up and support what we can. In particular, support organizations that work together and who are working together to deliver on results for their community. What we need is for people to talk to their elected officials and advocate for the most vulnerable in our community. We see this, it's not about us. We see this as our city sort of having the best, putting its best foot forward to support those who need us the most. So that's really what we're asking for. You can always go to the Ottawa Coalition of Community Houses, Google it, and find ways to get in touch with us. Donate if you can. Support the Ottawa Community Foundation and other organizations that are supporting our community. But this is community building work, and it comes in different forms and ways. And that's really what we're advocating for is to have a livable and enjoyable city for all of our residents.
Yeah, beautifully said. We have about 20 seconds. What would you say to the Ottawa Community Foundation?
I would just say a big thank you, because we wouldn't have been able to even start any of this project without them, and also for all of the other projects that we've been able to work on with them. It's invaluable, and we're so happy that they see the value in our agencies and programming.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I learned a lot from you too. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. Mohammed Sofa joining us today, and Carla Tour. We're not done though. An Hour to Give is going to continue. We're going to learn more about organizations in our community. A big thanks to the Ottawa Community Foundation for making it all happen today. Don't go anywhere. Come on back. I promised we'd be back here on An Hour to Give, and here we are. I'm Sam Laprade. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And once again, big shout out to the Ottawa Community Foundation for making today possible. Our next organization, I love the name, Soul Space. We'd like to welcome Danielle Rolfe to the show today, and Alex Brownlee. Hello, you two.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Sam.
So tell me a little bit, Danielle, how you got involved in Soul Space.
Yeah, so I'm just a community member who saw what frontline workers were doing in terms of caring for community members. And in the course of doing a documentary about what they do, I worked with the other co-founder, who's Robert Jameson, who's a frontline worker, harm reduction worker, and saw him burn out. And so in watching that, I said to Bob, can we do something to support other harm reduction workers and frontline workers so they don't burn out like you experienced? And then we just started with an experiment of taking a few people out for a retreat for a weekend, and it became an organization. I didn't anticipate that happening, but it's happened.
Wow, and I love how you started. I'm just a. No, you're not just a. Yeah, that's how beautiful things start. Is you have an idea and you're a community member and you make things happen. Alex, what's your role in Soul Space?
My role is I'm a frontline worker advisor, so I'm part of that group, and I'm also the photographer. I formerly attended a retreat with Soul Space, and that's how I
Okay.
got initially connected. So, but yeah, now that's what I'm doing with them.
And how do you fit in with the Ottawa Community Foundation?
So funding from the Ottawa Community Foundation has really been so instrumental for us. Like they've been one of our earliest grant providers, and so that's allowed us to become an organization. We were really just an idea that was sort of chugging along, and when Ottawa Community Foundation was able to provide some initial funding as well as community grants, and now with this grant, we've been able to sort of do the foundational work that's needed as an organization.
It's helping the helpers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about your job.
So I'm a harm reduction worker. I work in one of the downtown supervised consumption sites, or consumption and treatment services, whichever you'd like to call them. And I've been doing that since about 2018, working front lines through the pandemic, in the middle of the opiate and housing crises that are still prevalent today. But yeah, so that's what I do on my 9 to 5.
Right. I know it's not 9 to 5, by the
It's
way.
not 9
You
to
couldn't even
5.
say that with a straight
No.
face. Yeah.
No, it's 12 hours.
And I say, of course it is. And so I've heard a rumor that for every year you work in that work, that it's really 3 years of other work. So for every year you put in, it feels and it can be like 3 years.
Yeah, it's we say at 3 years you're a veteran,
Right.
Because it is quite intense, and it's been so long coming that we've needed an organization like Soul Space to step in to support frontline workers, because often, too often, we're kind of missed along the way. During the pandemic, there was a lot of recognition, and we recognized that we were heroes and that we were doing all of this amazing work. Post-pandemic, that's kind of fizzled away. In a way, we're not talking about it as much as we used to, but our struggles are still there. Like I said, the housing crisis still exists. The opiate epidemic is still prevalent, and we still are dealing with COVID on and off, right? So our job has never stopped.
The term compassion fatigue mean anything to you, Danielle? Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately not in terms of anything I've experienced, but I've watched so many frontline workers deal with that. And I think that just wrapping my head around that has been a huge thing to see. We were able to do some research with frontline workers and to see people in various stages of burnout on the road to compassion fatigue. It's actually really hard to watch. I think I met Alex when he was at early stages of burnout, if not maybe even later stages of burnout. And when someone's in that stage, it's really hard to be able to connect with them. And so Alex and I were just talking before this about the importance of reaching people long before they hit compassion fatigue, right? Preventing that burnout and preventing the compassion fatigue. But yeah, the compassion fatigue means that we lose dedicated frontline workers have so many skills and experiences that really need to be doing the important work in the community, but they're just lost to burnout. So that's what we're trying to address.
And I think for people that haven't worked in this sector, and I'm only speaking, I worked at the Mission for 10 years, but I was a fundraiser. So I have utmost respect for people that work frontline. But I think it's hard to see people and you think that they've gotten on their way, and then you see them 6 weeks later, 6 months later, and it's hard to see them cycle, right? And that can be very daunting for people. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that one of the challenges for someone like yourself?
Definitely. And finding a space where you can come together with folks who are like-minded, who are working the same type of jobs, because a lot of times, your partner may not be working in social services, may not be working at a shelter or whatever it may be. So to try and connect after a long day at work is really tough. Soul Space offers cafes where we can meet up as a collective, right, and share stories and be able to connect on that collective care model that we so love, where we're there together, where it's not oh, go take a bath. We've all heard that, right?
Right.
Go take a bath, self-care,
Right.
which is great, and not putting that down, but there's an extra step that needs to happen. You know, we're caring for a community of folks, and we need to care for ourselves as well together, so, yeah.
What's the objective, Danielle? At the end of the day, what do you want to achieve?
We say that we're trying to support frontline worker well-being, so well-being being a very broad term, but really it comes from a desire to address their emotional and spiritual well-being. You know, as you point out with compassion fatigue, seeing the turnover in terms of their clients, what the real impetus was for me when I saw it was seeing these guys working with people who were dying, right, in an overdose situation, and in some cases, fortunately, bringing them back to life, but in other cases not, and then not having the time or space to be able to really deal with the emotional fallout of that. Like that's, you know, whether one is religious or not, it's a spiritual question of how do you go on when you see that level of suffering. So that's really why we decided to develop Soul Space in the beginning, was because of that need to deal with the emotional well-being of frontline workers.
And I think no matter, you know, what your sort of role is, when you work in that space, you see your own amongst. I would say, boy, that reminds me of, you know, a friend, or that person reminds me of my dad or my uncle, or, and so it's hard to sort of then you go home and, well, you never really leave, right?
Never.
I mean, once again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's how I felt even.
Yeah, and I had to take some time away. I think I took about a year and a half away from working with the community, the folks who are, you know, experiencing homelessness, who are experiencing substance use disorder, but it pulls at your heart, it pulls at your spirit, your soul, everything that you are, because there are folks out there who are living in such harsh realities, who deserve a chance, and you know, it's hard to just sit back and not really do anything about it. So once a harm reduction worker, always a harm reduction worker. Once, you know, in front lines, it's really, really hard to get out. Yeah. Even if you've exited, you know, some way, some form, you'll figure out a way to keep helping. So
Yeah, no, it's true. And so I've asked everyone else, I'm going to ask you too, how can we help? What do you need?
Yeah, beyond like funds to be able to send frontline workers to our cafes, to our retreats and our workshops, we actually need physical space, right? So Soul Space, despite our name, doesn't have physical space. So place to actually hold retreats, to hold our workshops and other supports for frontline workers is what we're most in need of. And we know that there's many spaces in the Ottawa area and beyond that offer time for nature, spaces to be able to do things like yoga and mindfulness. That's really what we are most on the lookout for at the moment, beyond funds.
Because we think about the investment you would have made into your education and then all the work that you've done. We don't want to, your point, we don't want to lose you. We want to feel that you're supported. I mean, when I met you today, I thought, well, there's a handsome young man working in this sector, but I noticed you have a naloxone kit on you, right? I mean, that's your life. If you need that, you have it on you. So it is all encompassing in many ways. What would you say to somebody that's maybe watching, listening right now, and they're working in this space and they think they're all alone?
You're absolutely not alone. There is an organization there for you. We're called Soul Space. You can find us on our Facebook, on our Instagram. We have the internet and ways to connect. Please don't hesitate to reach out. If you remain silent and suffering alone, it only gets a little worse. And community is really how you get out. From my experience, it was the community around me that helped to pull me out of the muck. And if it wasn't for folks like Danielle and everybody else around me, it would have looked a lot different. So it's one of the biggest reasons why I bugged Danielle to be a part of Soul Space when I was good and ready to do so, because community is everything.
I just sense you're not bugging her, just so you know. Just so you know. You made my day. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it very much. Wonderful to have you here as well, Danielle. Alex Brownlee joining us today, and Danielle Rolfe talking about Soul Space. You heard it here on An Hour to Give. The Ottawa Community Foundation, thank you to everybody there for making this show happen today. This is An Hour to Give. See you soon, everyone. Thank you.